An alternative to better representing minority groups has been seen recently in Congress by proposal by John Tanner, which is a Right. The act was called the Redistricting Transparency Act, which would open the congressional district to public scrutiny and have the public know what's going on so that they can also give in their opinions on the matter.
Great, thank you very much. That was lovely. We're sorry to have to interrupt you in the midst to go on to the next question. It's certainly not personal. We'd really love to hear from every single one of you because you've contributed mightily to each question. Would you like to start?
Sure. I thought your opening remarks were quite on the mark, very relevant. I think you addressed the central question asked. More specifically on the follow-ups, well, Scott, I like the discussion of the disadvantages of the parliamentary system. The Anthony Eden example in Egypt, I thought, was a very good example to bring up. The idea of holding your party line, you were more or less on representation, taking kind of a delegate role, I think, and trying to what you represent. Your counterpart, Scott, over here, maybe Oliver Wendell Holmes would be the great dissenter. You did a very good job of offering counterpoints to your colleagues. I thought that was particularly good on the advantage and disadvantage of the parliamentary system. Bringing up James Bryce, I thought was quite good. The situation that we have of the size of Congress and the health care bill you brought in as a relevant example. And I thought you were good at picking up counterpoints very well. Donia, I thought you were particularly good talking about the advantages of the presidential system. Westbury versus Sanders was a good case. You had the Churchill-Attlee period was particularly good. You also cited some actual provisions of the Constitution, which is something we look for. Article 1, Section 2 about the voting, but you also talked about some cases, not just to throw them out, but I thought you were on the mark with the Rogers versus the Lodge case. Amani, I liked your discussion about the Texas case situation, the Texas case, but it wasn't just Democrats and Republicans. You made it things to show that both sides can do this, and then you brought in this multi-member district example, which I thought was quite relevant to what you're doing. The Baker versus Carr case was not necessarily about race; it was about urban-rural problems. But all in all, it was a very good presentation. You're well coached, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I also thought you did a fine job. It's clear why you made it into the top 10, and your opening right away was very good about that the parliamentary system is, or our system rather, is about limiting the executive influence over the legislature. I think that's exactly right. You had a good list of all the pluses and minuses of the two systems, and talked about the census. We haven't heard anyone else mention the census today, but the census is, of course, a constitutional requirement, and the purpose of the census isn't really to find out how many bathrooms people have, but to find out how many people live in particular states so that they can redistribute the congressional seats. That's exactly right. Sometimes you took different points of view and supported them. Sometimes you stuck to your guns. That was great. You had a good description on the size question of the House. It was very good that you talked about, well, maybe it's in balance with the Senate being not a majoritarian institution, that was important, that the House could function in the way it did at its current size. And the discussion of majority-minority was excellent. I'm not sure it would be unconstitutional for Congress to do that. I certainly thought the municipal and state governments can't do multi-member. But you can certainly apply the same principle, say it's against the principle, even if it isn't actually been determined. I'm not sure it would be unconstitutional, but that's certainly a fine point to take. So that was all very good. Let me just give you a couple of small things that could have been better, because you really did a great job. So these are small items. When you talk about some of the negatives, and there was really, you mentioned the Fourth Republic or instability of the parliamentary system, it seems to me that that would be a good occasion for you to say, well, stability is an advantage of our system, or deliberation is an advantage of our system. It seems like we got half it, maybe the other would have flowed easily. The point about who should resign and history and who you want in a crisis, no clear answer to that. Because maybe it was great that Eden had to quit, and the British public didn't have to have a president who would be there for 4 more years. It was such a terrible prime minister. And yes, it was terrible that Churchill was voted out, but think about how Churchill got in. Churchill got in because the Chamberlain government had basically let all of Europe been run over. And if they hadn't been able to throw him out and put Churchill in, the whole future of the Western world would have been destroyed if Chamberlain could have stayed in another 2 years or something. So there are arguments on both sides. It's a close question, and I'm not sure what system's better. But I think you had a very good understanding of the pluses and minuses. You were all very interested in responding to us, which is great. You all knew your stuff. It isn't like, well, one person was really strong here, 2 people were really strong here. This was a team where we had 4 strong people. That's always great to see. So you should all feel great about not only how your team did, but how each of you performed individually.
Absolutely. I agree with everything my colleagues have said here. I appreciated particularly the answers to Scott, the interest to my self-interest question, the answers to my self-interest question, because pulling it back to take it out of the realm of he was just trying to protect his job to he really was doing what his constituency wants. And I appreciated that angle. In addition to what my colleagues have said, I would just like to talk to you really brilliant people, all 4 of you sitting there, and have you look around the room and consider the small class of people that you've just entered by sitting and giving testimony in the seats you're in. I hope that you will think about whether or not you would like to pursue what you've learned through this program by representing us, whether it's at the state and local level or as representatives or senators, hopefully down the road, or even be involved as a lawyer in the judiciary, because we're thrilled to hear your minds operate and hope that you will serve us in the future. If you do, I'll feel much better about the future of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.